Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Roto Curve. Welcome back to Daily Fantasy Baseball. It's been a few days since I've been able to make a video. I was busy all weekend, but let's get right back into it. We got a lot of pitchers to talk about. Really a 7-game slate today on a Monday with half the major leagues traveling. But as always, there's a few good aces. There's a few cheap pitchers that we like, and it's time to get right into it. We have a lot of guys that we liked in the past couple of days, past couple of slates. But today is a little bit smaller. Obviously, with the slate being cut in half, there's only a few games that we're going to target. Now, that being said, you've always heard me talk about in the chat and in the forums that on days where a lot of guys are going to be highly owned, it's not a day where I personally like to play in cash games, the 50-50s and head-to-heads, simply because I don't believe the variance is there. Today, for me, is one of those days. I'm not going to be playing in cash. I will have some GPP lineups, some tournament lineups. I'll probably throw a few entries into the $3 moonshot, the $5 rally, and the cheap GPPs on Fantasy Feud as well. So be sure to remember that. If you are playing in cash, just make sure that you remember that a lot of guys will be very highly owned, so there won't be too much variance. That being said, let's get into the pitchers that we do like for today. There are 3 aces that are on the mound on Monday, and that's Chris Sale against the Los Angeles Angels, Johnny Cueto against the Detroit Tigers, and Gio Gonzalez on the road against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Of these aces, I really only like Chris Sale, and for one reason being the fact that he's one of the most talented pitchers in baseball. Now, he doesn't have an excellent matchup as the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim and California and the Western Time Zone, whatever their name is these days. They can hit left-handed pitching pretty well. They have a decent team of right-handers, including guys like Mike Trout, of course, Albert Pujols. They have some other guys in that lineup that are hitting the ball well as well, just like guys like Johnny Giovinazzo at the top of that lineup. So they do have a decent lineup, and although Sale is one of the better hitters in baseball, and he doesn't have better pitchers in baseball, he doesn't have a great matchup, I still like him based on his talent. Now, unfortunately, he's allowed 7 earned runs in back-to-back starts, and fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, I was able to witness both of them, one on television and the other one in person. Now, the first one against the Red Sox 2 weeks ago, he gave up 12 hits, I believe, in just over 5 innings, but he only gave up 2 fly balls. So think about what that means. That means they had ground balls bouncing through the hole. He gave up some infield hits. It's really an unlucky start. He did have 7 strikeouts, so his stuff was there. Now, in his last start against the Rays, which we always talk about Rays against lefties, it wasn't an excellent matchup for him. And although his slider was incredible, I was able to witness that from about 20 rows back behind the plate. Nobody could touch it. His fastball command was out of whack. He was leaving pitches out over the plate. A guy like Logan Forsythe took a ball deep in the left field fence. But once again, he was a victim of bad fielding. I know guys like Adam Eaton in center field took two steps back on weak fly balls that should have been caught and ended up costing him, giving up 7 earned runs. So he hasn't been pitching well. That's definitely the case. But those numbers are a little bit misleading. And that leads to the fact that today I think he'll be a little bit lesser owned than normal simply because of his recent history. The recency bias in daily fantasy sports is a big thing. So be sure to remember that when selecting him. He's my top pitcher for today, regardless of how he's been pitching. But I do think he can get it done today. Now, remember that I'm only going to be using him in tournaments just like the rest of the slate today. The other 2 aces I wanted to talk about were Johnny Cueto against the Tigers and Gio Gonzalez. Now, first things first, I don't like Cueto against Detroit for a variety of reasons. First things first, he goes against an American League team. We talked about Cueto coming from the National League, from the Reds, faces a lot of National League lineups who have 8 hitters, but for me personally, you've heard me talk about it before, I think it's 7 because that 8th guy in the lineup is usually a light hitting catcher, and they're not going to see great pitchers anyway, so they're usually not great hitters, and they're not going to be able to get a lot of hits. So that being said, now he's in the American League, he's facing 9 hitters, and he's facing 9 hitters for the Tigers that he just saw 5 days ago. And for me personally, I know the pitchers do not like facing guys just back-to-back because those hitters have a chance to see them again. Obviously, you've seen pitchers our whole lives in baseball, and they get through the first time in the order, it look good. Second time, they look good. That third time through the order, those hitters are going to start hitting the ball around a little bit. Considering the Tiger just saw Cueto, I think that could come the second time around. It doesn't make good for his value, especially against a good offense in the Tigers. That last ace was Gio Gonzalez against the Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers crush right-handed pitching. They have a lot of good left-handed bats. Now, they struggle a little bit against left-handed pitching. And the one thing that I wanted to talk about with Gonzalez is he's been very consistent, But the Dodgers have a lot of guys that hit left-handed pitching that come off the bench. Guys like Justin Turner when he's healthy, Scott Van Slyke, guys of that nature, and Yasiel Puig, who's been hitting the ball well when he's in the lineup. Now keep an eye on that Dodgers lineup because if it's the usual suspects, I think Gio is going to be a decent play tomorrow or today because simply he has that ability to go deep into games, has a chance to get a win, although the Nationals haven't been playing well, and he makes for a decent option. And he's always low owned because not a lot of people like to consider him because sometimes a little bit overpriced. Now, of those three aces I just talked about, I think Sale is my top guy, but I wouldn't mind having Gio Gonzalez in a few lineups if the opposing lineup is right. Now, there are two cheap pitchers I like today, and hopefully I wish there was more, but I looked at the slate, and there's not many guys I really like at the bottom half of the pricing. So these two cheap pitchers I wanted to talk about are Matt Shoemaker against the White Sox and Jonathan Neese against Colorado Rockies. First guy being Shoemaker. Earlier this season, we targeted Shoemaker as a hitter for hitters against because he really didn't pitch well. His ERA was in the fives. He had a whip close to 1.5 or higher. But that ERA has dropped a full run lately, and he's been really incredible. His last 19 innings of work, listen to this, is incredible. He has 27 strikeouts and 0 earned run. That's about as dominant as a stretch you're going to see from anybody, let alone a cheap pitcher like Shoemaker. He faces the White Sox, who have struggled as a whole offensively this season. They have been hitting the ball well since the All-Star break, but that's really just a select few. Guys like Adam Eaton, Tyler Saladino, and Jose Abreu. The bottom half of that lineup is wretched, and I think Shoemaker can continue his recent dominance. And with those strikeout numbers up, it makes for a good play at his price. Now, the last cheap guy I want to talk about, and the last pitcher I want to talk about for today is Jonathan Neese against the Rockies. He's probably my top player overall when you look at terms of matchup, price, and value. Now, you talked about that matchup, and you heard the Rockies, and you might think, what is this guy talking about? But the Rockies crush right-handed pitching. Against lefties, which Neese is, they don't do so well. Obviously, they have the highest WOBA and one of the highest ISOs, batting average slugging percentages against righties, but it looks like they're pretty much opposite fact against lefties. Now, another thing is they're away from Coors Field. Now, that's just not a ballpark downgrade normally. It's a bigger ballpark downgrade simply because they're playing in Citi Field. So it's the complete opposite for the ballpark, and it makes the Rockies lineup that more susceptible to strikeouts as the Mets and Citi Field. There's been a lot of strikeouts there, probably due because of the talent the Mets have in the pitching staff, but it's still something to look at. Now, another thing about Neese, he's been very good lately. He has given up, I think it was 9 of his last 10 starts, something like that, have been quality starts. So it's something to look at. He's been pitching well. The Colorado Rockies have not been hitting well. And the one guy in their lineup that has crushed left-handed pitching is Troy Tulowitzki, who now plays for the Blue Jays. So I think Neese is the top value play for me on the day. He's the top pitcher in terms of matchup and price, and I will probably be using him in most of my tournament lineups as I'm not playing cash for today. Now, you heard me mention two cheap pitchers that I like today, and that's a big thing because on a short slate, on these 3-pitcher sites like Fantasy Feud, if you can get 2 cheap pitchers in your lineup and mix in a Chris Sale or a Gio Gonzalez based on your preference, you can really spend up on hitters. And I think that makes for a lot of fun, especially on a site with 3 pitchers, because when you're pitching 3 good pitchers, you don't have a lot of money to use on those hitters. And that's not the case for today. So on Fantasy Feud, if you guys haven't played over there, be sure to go check it out. RotoCurve is offering a nice deal up to 100% deposit bonus or with a referral code curve. And as always, if you use RotoCurve's referral link, you can go on and get $25 free. That's if you deposit $50 or more. So be sure to take advantage of that. And obviously, if you've been on the site for a while, you've seen the curve points. You can earn another $25 if you have over 2,000 curve points. So you're talking about a $50 deposit plus another $25 if you deposit 50 or more. And then you can even get another $25 on top of that if you're using the curve points. So you're talking about a $50 deposit that can turn into $100. And on a slate like today where there's 2 cheap pitchers, you can use those big bats and maybe double that money as well. So it's a nice site to check out. I'll be playing on there as well. And those 3 pitchers I'll be using there are definitely Neese, Shoemaker, and a guy like Chris Sale. That pretty much wraps up the pitching segment I have for today. The last thing I wanted to touch on is in a 7-game slate, you heard me talk about the fact that I'm not going to be playing in cash. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit more because some people have asked me, well, yeah, but if it's 7-game slate for everybody, it's the same for everyone. But the way I look at cash games and GPPs, the teaching point I wanted to have for you guys today, I think for me is the more variance there is in the slate, I think that gives people the edge, and that's what we're looking for. There's 15 games. That means there's going to be 30 pitchers pitching. That means there's going to be 30 different offenses playing. It's going to be 1 through 5, 1 through 6. There's a lot of different ways people can go. But in a shorter slate, especially with a guy, a slate like today, where there's really only a guy like Sale at the top, Neese at the bottom, and Shoemaker and Gio in the middle, a lot of those pitchers are going to be very highly owned. So it basically just becomes a battle of the hitters. And as you guys know, hitters and variance in baseball is really high. If one guy hits a 2 home runs in a game and you don't have him, you're not going to cash. And I don't like the fact that that variance in short slates brings you that way. So for me today, I think it's wise to play just in tournaments. And I think if you guys are playing in cash, just be sure to maybe use a 1-pitcher site or a 3-pitcher site, because then it becomes more variance. Because on these 3-pitcher sites like Fantasy Feud, a lot of people will choose to spend in one direction or the other. So if you're looking at those 3 guys like a Sale, or you go Neese and Shoemaker as well, not everybody's going to have that, and it still has some variance. That being said, on DraftKings, everyone's going to have Sale regardless of the matchup, and most people will have Neese as well. So be sure to be careful when you're playing your contest selection for today, as I'm just going to be targeting tournaments. As always, just wanted to mention the tools we have up over at RotoCurve. You can use those every day. They have a lineups page that we use to keep updated when those lineups come out. So be sure to check on that Dodgers lineup, because if those usual suspects are in the lineup, all those lefties, Gio makes for a great play. In addition, Danielle's weather video will be up every day, close to 5:30 Eastern time, maybe a little bit after that. So check on that and make sure you don't have any players that have any weather issues. So with that being said, let's win a lot of money tonight on Monday night, and let's get this week off to a great start. Thanks for watching, everybody, and once as always, stay classy, DFS.